Howdy folks, hope you're all having a good one, and welcome to another episode of Mingles with Jingles. Going to have to be brief this week for reasons which are about to become immediately obvious. First, a couple of updates. Have you noticed how when you reach a certain age, all you ever do is just complain about your health? It's like my neighbour just offered to take me to Marks and Spencer's. It's a very posh supermarket. I was like, oh yeah, please. And all we did was whine about our health to each other all the way there. Bless her. She's lovely. Her name's Sarah. Anyway, updates. Yeah, like I said. So I don't know if you recall in last week's video, I was talking about how apparently now I have arthritis in my shoulder for the rest of my life. Well, yeah, about that. So I won't repeat all of the gory details because I went into great detail in last week's video, but the short version, pain in my shoulder for 3 weeks now, actually coming on for 4 weeks now, not going away, not getting any better. Went to the doctor, and during a phone call with the doctor, the word arthritis was mentioned. I was like, what? I'm only 55. Oh, you've got to be kidding. Anyway, it didn't end there because I self-referred myself to the physiotherapist. And I think it was Thursday last week, I had to go and see the physio for an appointment. And the physiotherapist, bless him, was amazing. He had me put my arm through the whole range of movements and so on and so on. He said, yeah, you don't have arthritis. Hey, hooray, that's great. He says, you've got a frozen shoulder. And what the hell's a frozen shoulder? He said, nobody knows. I mean, they know what a frozen shoulder is, but nobody knows why you get a frozen shoulder. So basically, and again, very, very basic version, around the shoulder joint, there's a whole big bag of ligaments and tendons. And for some reason, sometimes it just gets swollen, which restricts the movement and causes pain. And that's a frozen shoulder. And nobody knows why it happens. So that's the bad news. Well, actually, that's the first piece of bad news. There is good news. I mean, the big good news is it isn't arthritis. And the other good news is frozen shoulder goes away by itself. You don't need to treat it. The bad news is it can take up to 2 years for it to go away by itself, but it will go away by itself. Obviously, if your job involves raising your hand over your head a lot, like if you're a plasterer or something working on ceilings, then you can't afford to wait 2 years to be able to work again. So in which case, then there are surgical options. But I mean, I don't need surgery for it. I can just wait up to 2 years and eventually it'll get better by itself. At which point I'll probably have developed arthritis. But anyway, the good news is it isn't arthritis yet, and it will go away by itself. So, hooray, I suppose. Oh, wait, no, I was forgetting. There is more bad news. Oh, yeah. Again, frozen shoulder, essentially inflamed tendons and ligaments in your shoulders. Well, you can take anti-inflammatories for that, surely. Something like ibuprofen. Normally, yes. But not if you've just had a heart attack. Because the blood thinners and the various different medications that you're on after having a heart attack mean that you can never take an anti-inflammatory. So I basically just have to put up with it for however long it takes for it to get better by itself. But, I mean, you know, that's fine, whatever. It could be worse. I could have arthritis, so. Oh, the other thing, because there's always another thing, and the reason why this week's episode of Mingles with Jingles may have to be a little brief is any minute now I am going to have to start taking my first dose of laxatives for my colonoscopy tomorrow. Yes. Yes, it's that time of year again. Actually, it was that time of year about 7 months ago, but National Health Service. To be fair, you see, this is the follow-up to my cancer surgery treatment over a year and a half ago now. 1 year after the surgery, they check you. First, they do a CT scan, and then they also do a colonoscopy. However, here's the thing. The CT scan was done on time, and it was clear. There was no signs of a recurrence of the cancer after the CT scan. That immediately put me right at the bottom of the priority list for a colonoscopy. And I think what's basically happened is, you know, there are people coming in with far, far more urgent need for a colonoscopy than me, so I just kept getting pushed to the back of the list over and over and over. And I think what happens with the National Health Service is if you do something like a colonoscopy and you still haven't had it 6 months after you were supposed to have it, They just pay to send you to a private hospital. And that's exactly what's happening. So by the time you lot hear or see this episode of Mingles with Jingles, I'll be semi-comatose on my side with my knees up to my chest, having a bunch of burly young men shove a tube with a camera on the end of it right up my arsehole for science. The thing is, the colonoscopy itself is a doddle. It really is easy. They sedate you. You're conscious. You're aware of what's going on, but it's all like happening in the background, if you know what I mean. It's the prep for the colonoscopy. That's the thing that nobody's looking forward to. Did I mention any minute now I have to start taking the laxatives? From that point, you do not want to be more than 10 seconds away from a toilet, because this shit acts fast and often. And I've noticed something, because the first time I had the colonoscopy, it was done on the National Health Service. And the National Health Service are fantastic, but they're short of cash, so they always go for the cheapest option. The private hospital, not so. They go for the most effective option, regardless of the price, because at the end of the day, they can just charge the customer. Or in this case, they're charging the National Health Service. But here's the deal. For my first colonoscopy, done on the National Health Service, I had to go to the hospital to collect all of the preparation materials and instructions. They wouldn't post them to me. They couldn't afford the postage. That didn't happen this time around. The other thing I noticed was that if there are a number of different medications available for a certain procedure, and some are a lot cheaper than others, the National Health Service gets the cheap ones. Not necessarily the good ones. I mean, they'll still work, but you'll be able to tell the difference. And what I mean is, for my first colonoscopy done on the National Health Service, not only did I have to go to the hospital myself to get all of the stuff that I needed for the laxatives and the preparation and so on and so on, but I had to stop eating 2 days before the procedure, and I was shitting my pants for 2 days before the procedure on laxatives. With the private hospital, which ironically the National Health Service are paying for, they are clearly using more effective and therefore more expensive stuff, because I'm sitting here right now recording this on Sunday, the day before the procedure. The colonoscopy is happening at 9:50 Monday morning. I need to be there at 9:20, so well, yeah, getting there is going to be fun. But anyway, but today, Sunday, as I'm recording this, the day before the procedure, I had to stop eating at 9 a.m, but I could continue to drink like tea, coffee, clear liquids, that sort of thing. And then I only take the first dose of laxatives at 5 p.m, so like less than a day, less than 24 hours before the procedure. And then the second dose of laxatives later. So I'm only shitting through the eye of a needle for less than 24 hours rather than for nearly 2 days, which was the case the first time I had this done, for free. And like they say, you get what you pay for. So the pain and grief of having to go through the bowel prep prior to the colonoscopy isn't going to be nearly as bad this time around. But it's still going to be bad. As I'm sitting here, it's 4:30. I've had nothing to eat since dinner last night. And I have to take the laxatives in half an hour. And if previous experience is anything to go by, this stuff works quick. Like, I think the last time I took this stuff, within 15 minutes, I was glued to a toilet seat, shitting fizzy brown arse gravy through the eye of a needle for the next 2 days. Did you know, fun fact, if you wipe your arse with toilet paper for more than, 17 or 18 times in the space of 2 hours, your arsehole really starts to sting. So I think I'll be using baby wipes. Oh, don't worry, I have a stock. I learnt my lesson the first time around. I know they're not great for the environment, but it's not like I'm using them all the time. One day, that's all I ask. I'm sure you understand. Well, anyway, before I go and commit myself to a life, or at least a day on the toilet, what's new in the world of PC gaming? Big, massive, huge update for The Last Caretaker. And funnily enough, just when I was thinking, for a game, and don't get me wrong, I love The Last Caretaker, but for a game that is basically set on the ocean wave and which contains underwater exploration It's no Subnautica. All of the underwater bits are fairly lackluster. And then, sure enough, the new update adds a jet ski, lets you customise your base boat, and expands on the underwater location. So I'll be investigating that soon. Although I am playing Surround Dead a lot at the moment. And it's going to take forever for the videos that I'm doing on The Last Caretaker to catch up with where this new update is anyway. But if you're playing the game yourself, and you've basically explored it all to death, and you're just waiting for the next update, the next update is out. Get back in there, check it out, let me know what you think. Also, did you know that Unreal Tournament 2004 is now available for free, thanks entirely to its fan community, and they've even updated the game for modern PCs. It is apparently the first public patch for Unreal Tournament 2004 in over 20 years. Also, Hideo Kojima just announced that Death Stranding 2 is officially coming to PC. It's going to have widescreen support, unlocked frame rate, and frame generation because, PC. And apparently it's coming a lot sooner than anybody was expecting. No official release date has been announced, but soon. Speaking of frame generation and upscaling and all things hardware GPU based, do you know how many of the 21 most popular games currently being played on PC actually use hardware ray tracing? I mean, there was a time, and it wasn't that long ago, when the phrase ray tracing, you just couldn't get away from it, and it was slapped onto all of the prettiest looking games, like, Cyberpunk 2077, for example. I'll be coming back to that in a second. However, as the memory crisis continues to devastate hardware prices and game performance gets, well, how can we put this? It's like the developers can't just rely on the sheer grunt of the hardware to make their games work, and instead have to optimize raster performance. Or they're just making games that don't actually require ray tracing in the first place. So if you were to look at the biggest 21 games of the last 12 months, only 5 have ray tracing of any kind. And one of those, and it's Monster Hunter Wilds, only uses ray tracing for simple reflections, and all 5 of them, the ray tracing is optional. It's not a requirement. Those games are Ark Raiders, Football Championship 26, NBA 2K 26, Monster Hunter Wilds, as we mentioned, it's optional, it's only used for reflections, and Dune Awakening. Split Fiction, Dispatch, Stellar Blade, Escape from Duckov, Peak, Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, Repo, Battlefield 6, Where Winds Meet, Mugenics, Nioh 3, Deadlock. None of these games use ray tracing at all, and none of them look any worse for it. In fact, and I said I was going to come back to Cyberpunk 2077, I can recall doing comparative testing. I mean, not scientific comparative testing, because, I did have a GPU. At the time it was an RTX 4080, and now it's a 5090, that was entirely capable of turning on not just ray tracing, but full path tracing in Cyberpunk, and achieving an acceptable frame rate without frame generation. And it did look great. But then, just for comparison's sake, I would turn all of the ray tracing off, drop the graphics settings down to medium, and play the game again. And I get 250 frames per second, and graphically, it didn't really look any worse. I mean, if you were looking for the differences, if you would pause the game, when you're not actually playing the game, if you were to pause what you were doing and stop and just focus on the details, yeah, you could tell there was no ray tracing. But when you're actually playing, it didn't make the slightest bit of difference. So while the ongoing memory crisis, and soon basically everything else crisis, does kind of suck, it turns out you don't actually need to be scouring eBay trying to find a GPU that's going for less than $5,000, because the best games, the ones that people are actually playing, the ones written by indie developers who optimize their code so it'll work on everybody's systems regardless of whether or not they have expensive hardware, and will just work better if you have the expensive hardware. Does anybody remember when that was a thing? Is anybody old enough to remember when developers had to optimize their games to get the best performance possible because you couldn't just throw hardware at the problem? Well, it looks like those days are back. And I, for one, welcome our new independent game developer optimizing overlords. And on that bombshell, I'm off to take some laxatives. Then I'm going to the toilet, and I may be sometime. Colonoscopy tomorrow, such fun. Hopefully there won't be any break to normal service, but if the video doesn't appear on Tuesday, you know why. I don't anticipate there being a problem. I mean, a colonoscopy is a simple procedure, but you never know. So yeah, I'm sure everything will be fine. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed today's video. I hope you all had a great weekend, and as always, take care, and I'll catch you next time.